I'm exploring the most incredible real-life survival stories from around the world. Ordinary people who went through hell but survived against all the odds. This time, I'm in the vast Central American jungle, where I'll be reliving 3 incredible stories of people who cheated death.
Chances of surviving are very, very slim. Là, ça a été l'enfer.
I wept. I was devastated.
Down there, 1,000 square kilometers of virgin rainforest. I'm in Guatemala, Central America, one of the wildest places on Earth. I'm here because 3 groups of survivors somehow managed to beat the odds and stay alive in this brutal terrain. Woo! Straight into the reality of the Guatemalan jungle. Hot, humid, thorny, and dangers everywhere in this place. The minute you land, you gotta switch on. Our first survivors would discover just how quickly this place can turn into a living hell. On the Guatemalan-Mexican border, archaeologist Armando Anaya and his team were excavating an ancient Mayan monument. The area was so lawless, the army had warned them they entered at their own risk.
It was around 8 o'clock in the morning when the first group of people came. They seemed very angry and armed with machetes. And they asked me what we were doing there.
The locals thought their ancestral monuments were being looted. Then a group of bandits arrived, armed with guns.
They said, take off your shoes, take off your jackets, your shirts, whatever you have. At that time, we knew we were in trouble.
For the 5 archaeologists, things had turned nasty very fast. Total feeling of helplessness. They were stripped of their belongings, marched at gunpoint down to the river, and that river was fast-flowing and full of crocs.
Their leader told us, line up against the river. We thought we were going to be facing a firing squad. The rest of them jumped on us and they kicked us, they hit us. The final blow was on my jaw. He fractured it. I felt a lot of pain at that time. You remember your wife, your kids. Oh God. These people told us, if we return and you are still here, we're gonna finish you off.
Between them, they have broken ribs, smashed jaw, ruptured spleen. But right now, they had a chance to get away. But the decision of what to do is a difficult one. Do they go back into the jungle, where the bandits could be, or do they flee across the river?
We were to face certain death or probable death. We decided to try to cross the river.
Never underestimate big, powerful rivers. You've got to work out a way of assessing the speed of the flow. And whenever you think you're going to get spat out, give yourself 25% extra margin for error. But choosing where to cross was the least of Armando's worries. 2 of his group couldn't even swim.
I felt terrified. The chances of surviving are very, very slim.
Just as they were about to risk their lives, they spotted something miraculous on the riverbank. A fisherman's canoe.
Of all the places to find a canoe, this was just amazing. This was a real lifesaver.
The canoe was only big enough for 2. Armando and the others would have to cling to the sides. If you haven't got a canoe, there are other ways you can make flotation for yourself. Use a backpack liner, trap as much air as you can in here, seal it really well, and that's like a giant life preserver. Keep you afloat in the rapids. Here we go. Armando's group entered the water, clinging on to their lucky find.
We started frantically paddling, grabbing as hard as we could to the canoe because we didn't want to lose it.
It's all about the hidden dangers. Rocks where you've got to keep your feet up. Strainers. You get fallen low and you get pinned against it by the pressure of the water. Current's taking me straight into this, so hold on, I need to fend this off. The danger of these things. Get all tangled up in the roots. Keep your head above the water. Try not to panic. And ease yourself through it.
The river was getting deeper and deeper. And there were rapids ahead and rocks.
There's a rapid coming.
That was the point that I got really, really scared. I don't know how we did it, but somehow we managed to make it.
And you don't want to fight the current. You just got to go with it. Get across the river in one piece.
When we reached the other side of the river, we felt extremely relieved, but exhausted.
Now they were isolated, without gear or shoes, and with the bandits not far behind. The jungle can be an unforgiving place, even if you have been able to prepare for survival. In Guyana, two French landscape gardeners, Loïc Pilloir and Guillaume Naral, had set off into the Amazon rainforest on an adventure of a lifetime.
L'idée, c'était de partir, de faire de l'express, quoi, hein. Partir, minimum de matériel.
Loïc and Guillaume had the basics for survival. They had food, they had a first aid kit, a machete, tarpaulin for shelter.
s'est posé la question de savoir si on emportait un GPS. Rapidement, on a dit que c'était pas la peine, avec une boussole on y arrivait, ça faisait un poids supplémentaire.
From where Loïc and Guillaume started their trek, about here, it was some 60 kilometers to Saúl, where they wanted to end here. And they put themselves a flight 12 days later, figured that's going to be masses of time. What they underestimated, though, is between here and here, dense Amazonian jungle. And if they deviated just slightly off this line, they'd trek straight past Saúl.
On est tombé sur des végétations et surtout du relief très accidenté qui a considérablement réduit notre vitesse de progression.
The mistake that Loïc and Guillaume made was trying to beat the jungle head on. And jungles tend to be made up of these very steep-sided ravines gouged out by water. And if you just try and head up and over them, you're going to burn through your energy and your pace is going to slow to a crawl. Battling on through the dense jungle, the Frenchmen lost track of their position.
Derrière les genoux, j'étais en sang, des espèces de griffures par de la végétation et commençait un peu à s'infecter.
After 12 agonizing days, Saúl was nowhere in sight. They knew their plane would be leaving without them. At this stage, the guys were just dead on their feet. Not just physically, but also emotionally. But Loïc had a plan. Climb a tree, get above the jungle canopy, and hope to see a sign of human life. Wow. Just trees, trees, and more trees. It's exactly what Loïc would have seen as well.
Loïc, je crois qu'il a hurlé de colère et de déception.
Another crushing blow. They were lost and alone in 5.5 million square kilometers of Amazonian rainforest.
Une angoisse énorme. Énorme.
I'm Bear Grylls, and I'm exploring how 3 remarkable groups of survivors escaped from their own jungle hell. In Guatemala, Armando Anaya and a team of archaeologists had been attacked by bandits before making a daring escape. But Armando couldn't hang around once he was across the river. He looked back, he could see the bandits looking for him. he needed to move.
That really freaked us out. We were convinced that they would cross the river to finish us off.
Their one hope for survival was an archaeological site 5 kilometers to the south. But to reach it, they'd have to trek through the dense jungle without navigation equipment, shirts, or shoes.
The greatest fear that we had was stepping on a snake or stepping on another poisonous creature.
Boa constrictor blocking my way. Quite a big guy as well. Try and pin his head. We'll use this V to do this. Okay, I've got him pinned. Control the head, control the body, and carefully move past him.
Fear was what kept us going. Fear of being caught up by the bandits and being killed.
18,000 kilometers away, another academic, British microbiologist John Gillat, was taking a break in the Malaysian highlands after a business trip.
I decided to go up there and get away from it all for a few days.
John had set off on a short walk to the top of a nearby hill. He'd packed some snacks and water from his hotel minibar, thinking he'd be out for just a few hours.
Eventually, I reached the top of the hill. I set my camera up so I could take a photograph of myself. I could see the hotel in the distance, so I knew roughly where I was. And then I started to descend the hill, and the track didn't look familiar.
John tried to retrace the steps, but quickly became disoriented.
I forced my way through the jungle, through the trees and the bushes, and that ripped at my arms and legs.
In dense jungle, it was impossible for John to see more than a few meters in front of his face.
I realized then that I was really lost.
John was actually only about 5 kilometers from his hotel. But as far as he's concerned, it might have been 5,000. He's faced with a choice, either turning back, uphill, trying to bash through all that dense vegetation, or keep heading down. And that's what he chose. John scrambled down the ravine until he reached a rocky stream.
I hoped that might lead to a settlement of some sort.
John was following a stream downhill to where it hit a river and eventually civilization. The only thing about jungles, though, is there's no guarantee you're going to hit civilization anytime soon.
Waterfalls are very difficult to negotiate. I knew that if I injured myself, I would be in trouble.
John kept going, but by now it was clear the stream was heading deeper into the heart of the jungle. Then night started closing in.
I was getting rather worried because I'm going to have to find somewhere to stay for the night. And the guy at the hotel told me there were tarantulas and poisonous snakes around.
It's on the jungle floor that so many of the nasties live. And look, there you go, a scorpion. And these guys can move fast and they can strike fast. And you don't want him crawling up your trouser leg when you're trying to sleep at night. But it's not just scorpions. You know, beetles, army ants. And at night time, all of these guys come out to hunt. John knew the dangers, but he didn't have a knife or machete to build a shelter.
I didn't have very many options until I went round a corner and there was a sandbar, and I thought that might be a good place to stop for the night.
John's decision to sleep on a sandbar was a smart one. It kept him away from creatures amongst the leaves. But spending a night out here, alone, is always a daunting prospect. By now, Frenchmen Loïc and Guillaume had spent their 13th night deep in the Amazon rainforest. They knew their families would raise the alarm, so they set up camp, hoping rescuers would find them. So far, they'd survived on rations, but those had now run out.
Il a fallu commencer à chercher de la nourriture, donc à goûter différentes espèces végétales qui étaient autour de nous.
To keep their bodies functioning, they needed to eat 2,500 calories a day. I often find these palm nuts quite hard to crack, but full of essential oils and lots of energy. And Loïc and Guillaume spend a lot of time looking for and eating these. They taste like really bland, very oily coconut, but good survival food.
Des graines de palmier, assez dures, mais quand si on en mange, on arrive à se caler l'estomac.
That one's rancid. And one of the best jungle foods, heart of palm. Find one of the young tender shoots, give it a pull, and that's the heart of it. It's great carbohydrate, good to eat. It's one of the first things that they teach soldiers in the jungle. Look for the palms. Every jungle in the world will have them. Loïc and Guillaume's vegetarian diet was keeping them alive, but only just. They were losing fat and muscle fast, and their bodies were starting to show signs of parasitic infection. Although rescuers knew they were missing, nobody had any idea how to find them. In Malaysia, John had something the Frenchman would have loved. The ultimate modern survival tool. A phone. But at the bottom of the ravine, he didn't have a signal. In the hope of getting one, he set off on a long and dangerous hike to higher ground.
I started climbing out of the ravine. There were vines on which I tried to pull myself up on. The terrain was very treacherous.
When John eventually made it to the top, he turned on his phone.
And lo and behold, I got a signal. It was just fantastic. I did what any good man who's got a good wife does. I rang Nolene back in the UK.
I was annoyed at him that he'd chosen to ring at 3 o'clock in the morning. And he immediately was quite defensive and said to me, whatever you do, don't get angry. I'm lost. And my first reaction was, don't take the piss.
I said, no, I really am lost and you've got to get help.
And I immediately sort of sat up in bed. My first reaction was, what do we do about this?
Nolene raised the alarm and a Malaysian rescue team contacted John. But they had bad news. His phone signal was too weak to get a fix on his position.
I didn't know what I was going to do. I was very worried for Nolene and my daughters and whether I would actually ever see them again.
After 16 days in the jungle, Loïc and Guillaume's hopes of rescue were also fading, until they heard a distinctive sound.
On a entendu un hélicoptère et là on s'est dit, bon, ça va, on nous cherche.
On chargeait le feu de feuilles très humides et là on dégage une fumée.
And they must have had adrenaline just coursing around their body, knowing it's a helicopter in the vicinity, and they might only get one chance at this.
On s'est dit, de toute façon, dès qu'il va y avoir la fumée, il va arriver par là et ça va être bon. Et que j'ai dit à Guilhem, c'est bon, demain on est en France.
But the fire just wasn't big enough to create enough smoke to punch through the canopy. There may have been a way to boost the signal fire, using items found in something they had with them. And what they had was a first aid kit. Grab the bandage, smear this in the Vaseline, and then the mosquito repellent that's flammable, just to help get that initial fire really racing. Big bunch of leaves on top. You want smoke, and you want it fast. That helicopter's not gonna hang around. Woo! And once you've done all you can, pray. After 16 days isolated in the Amazon rainforest, Loïc and Guillaume were desperately trying to signal a helicopter. But the helicopter passed them by. And after hoping and praying for a break, you can only imagine the devastation that must have just engulfed them. Over the following days, more helicopters would fly by without seeing them.
Et au fur et à mesure des passages d'hélicoptères, à chaque fois c'était une grosse montée, une excitation, on se dit ça y est, c'est fini. Et à chaque fois une déception encore plus grande.
Guatemala, Armando and his crew were having the opposite problem. They were trying to make sure they weren't found by the bandits that had attacked them. During their second night on the run, the humidity, rainfall and a lack of clothing combined to create an unexpected problem.
The jungle can get really cold at night. It's very damp, so you feel cold to the bone.
And it didn't take long for hypothermia to take hold.
One of my colleagues went into shock. He was not completely conscious, and that was a real concern. I hugged him to keep him warm. We knew we were going to do whatever it needed to be done to make sure that all of us would stay safe.
Armando's actions basically saved his buddy's life. And sharing body heat is a key survival technique. And it's a reminder that teamwork really matters. Together we're stronger. So far, Armando's group had only been able to collect a small amount of rainwater. And now they were struggling with an agonizing thirst.
There are water vines in the jungle, and we knew that if you cut a water vine, you can get water.
Here's a water vine. And look, this is what Armando is trying to drink from. And all you do with these, you need to cut it once at the bottom. And then once higher up. And as soon as you cut through the top bit, air can get in, gravity will take over, and the water will flow out of the end. You need a little bit of patience, but there's a lot of water in these vines, and it's just going to run and run. But Armando's group had their machetes stolen by the bandits. All they had was a small penknife. The problem Armando had was by the time he'd hacked through these water vines, all the capillaries had closed up, and at most he was just getting a few drops.
We sucked on it. It was kind of bitter, but we had some moisture in our mouths.
After 3 days lost in Malaysia, John was also out of water. He faced an agonizing decision. Wait on the hill where he had phone reception, or head into the jungle to try and reach a stream.
I sent a text to Nolene to say that I was going to go and try and find water.
That was really worrying because I knew he'd have to go downhill, and downhill meant that he'd probably lose a signal, and that would sever whatever connection we had.
Abandoning his best chance of rescue, John had to head back into the dark heart of the jungle. After 25 days, Loïc and Guillaume faced a different threat: starvation.
Jusque-là, nous sommes... je pense que nous avons perdu déjà quasiment pas loin de 10 kilos. Là, on commence à cueillir des choses. On ramasse des larves. On chasse des crapauds buffles, la grenouille, ce genre de choses.
They go frog, and basically all frogs are edible as long as they're not tiny or they're brightly coloured. And Guillaume became pretty good at catching and preparing these. But you want to skin them though, that's where, if they are poisonous, that's where they secrete the poison from.
On l'ouvre bien, on sort les organes les uns après les autres.
Then we've got an end section of bamboo filled with water over the fire, and drop the frog down the mortar tube and let that just boil away.
Beaucoup de préparation, la grenouille, mais alors excellent quoi, au feu de bois, super.
Jungle chopsticks and jungle frog cooked up. That's good.
Du délice. Un délice.
As a survivor, you gotta savor it and enjoy it. And really good food does as much for your mind as it does your body. Especially if you're French. They really love their food. And really, Loïc and Guillaume were doing an incredible job as hunter-gatherers, keeping themselves where they had to be, at the top of the food chain. But the Frenchmen were still struggling to get the calories they needed to keep their bodies functioning. They couldn't survive in their jungle camp forever.
On n'entendait plus d'hélicoptères. mais on se disait, ils cherchent peut-être dans un autre côté, là où on n'est pas.
J'en avais assez de rester. J'avais envie de bouger.
After 35 days, with their bodies dangerously weakened, Loïc and Guillaume abandoned their camp and set off into the jungle, hoping that this time they'd be able to find their way out. Meanwhile in Guatemala, Armando Anaya and his team had been trying for 3 days to reach the safety of an archaeological site.
We walked up and down the hills, exhausted, thirsty, hungry, and when it was getting dark, we finally decided to try to reach the river again, see how much we had advanced. To our horror, we became aware that we were about 100 meters off the point that we had started, and we walked a huge circle.
For Armando, that must have been a bitter blow to realize he's done all that movement, all that energy, and he's basically gone around in one big circle. But Armando's luck was about to change.
We suddenly heard a boat that was going downriver. We weighed the risk of a bandit being on the boat. We decided then to risk it and flag the boat down.
The boatman was friendly. He agreed to take the men downriver to a camp and to safety.
All of us felt really lucky. It was like a blessing. When you're pushed to extreme situations, you should never give up. Never give up. Always think that you're gonna survive, even if you're in the worst moment.
Armando and his colleagues had survived. But Loïc and Guillaume's hopes of rescue were as distant as ever. And after 36 days in the jungle, their bodies were failing them.
Sur le plan physiologique, on est à peu près à moins 15 kilos. On a pas mal d'infections cutanées. J'ai des escarres dans le dos et des infections avec du pus dans le dos.
Both men had parasites causing skin sores and liver damage. Botfly larvae were burrowing into their flesh. They had ticks on their legs and testicles. And their crippling hunger would lead Guillaume to make a devastating mistake.
Je sens une présence à côté de moi et je tourne la tête à droite. Et au sol, je vois une mygale noire, bien poilue mais noire.
Look how camouflage he is. Tarantula. And this is what they'll often do when you're chasing them. They'll freeze.
Parce qu'en fait, la mygale, quand on s'approche, elle va avoir tendance à se plaquer au sol et à ne pas bouger, en espérant qu'on la voit pas.
And that's your time to strike. Straight through the back. And this was actually one of Loïc's and Guillaume's favourite foods. Tarantula roasted over a fire. Time to cut the tarantula. And one of the important things to do is burn all of these tiny little hairs that are on the tarantula's legs. And it's a natural defense mechanism of the tarantula. They're barbed, massive irritant if you get them in your mouth or on your skin.
Je savais que ceux-là, il fallait bien les cuire de manière à ce que, avec la flamme, ça supprime la dangerosité du poison qui avait contenu dans ces poils.
Okay, this is going to be cooked now. And I don't want its guts, which is all of this sack at the back. But all of that is fine to eat. And you can see the meat in there. I've learned in the wild, as long as you burn it well enough, it's kind of just like a barbecue. And I can see why they liked it. It's quite tasty. But when Loïc and Guillaume undercooked one of their tarantula, that was to have massive consequences for them.
Là, ça a été l'enfer. Des brûlures atroces sur la langue, dans la bouche. Je demande à Loïc de me regarder, ça va, je change pas de couleur et tout, quoi, panique un peu à bord. La douleur est violente et hyper forte.
Guillaume was already weakened by starvation. Now, poisoned by the tarantula, his body collapsed. It's why the wild is so unforgiving. Get it wrong once, and find yourself in big trouble.
Moi, je le voyais dépérir. Moi, je l'ai vu, il fondait.
Knowing his friend needed medical help, Loic would soon be faced with the hardest decision of his life. After 50 days in the jungle, Guillaume was poisoned and dying after eating a tarantula.
Chaque jour, c'était l'enfer. Les brûlures, le corps, je m'amaigrissais, quoi. C'était physiquement, j'y arrivais plus.
His friend Loic faced a gut-wrenching decision: stay and look after him, or strike out into the jungle to find help. Whatever he decided, both lives were depending on him.
Je lui dis, demain je pars seul. Je vais chercher un hélicoptère.
Loic now faced a massive challenge. If you think about it, everything they're done together. If there's any chance of making it out alive, Loic would have to get out of the jungle, but then re-find where he'd left his buddy.
J'ai forcé Guilhem à sortir de son hamac pour qu'on fasse une photo. J'ai voulu qu'on soit tous les deux sur la photo. J'aurais au moins une preuve que je l'avais laissé en vie. Je voulais pas que ce soit la dernière photo. Mais malheureusement, ça aurait pu l'être.
Loic was under enormous pressure. He needed to find the remote village of Saoul and return in time to save Guillaume's life. The stress he was feeling must have been immense. I'm going to recreate some of the practical difficulties that he faced.
What I'm going to do is leave something here that's important to me, something personal that means a lot. And I always carry a little picture of my family with me. It's a little something that helps me, gives me hope. So I'm going to leave that. And then once I find my way out of the jungle, I'm going to see if I can re-find this exact spot.
Even if Loic made it to Saoul, he knew returning and spotting the camp from the air would be an enormous challenge.
This would be a good place to lay some sort of air marker out. Because at the river, there's this natural gap in the canopy, and I can just use a tarpaulin, just like the one that Loic and Guillaume had. And then make an arrow to indicate the direction that I've left the photo in. Okay.
Toute la motivation que j'avais, c'était pour qu'on trouve des secours et qu'on sauve Guilhem. Il fallait au moins qu'on sorte tous les deux de la forêt vivants.
In Malaysia, John had found a stream, but was now isolated deep in the jungle.
My mind turned to the problems that I was causing Nolene, my wife, my daughters. I set myself a load of tasks to do. I put my red sweatshirt so that the helicopter would see it. Every half hour, I would stand on this boulder in the middle of the stream and shout help in every direction.
J'arrive dans une zone de bambou très très dense. Il y a des bambous avec des épines qui font 20 cm, qui sont une zone quasiment impénétrable.
Loic somehow found the strength to keep going after all that he'd suffered.
Et là, je tombe sur un tronc d'arbre coupé net. Et là, je me dis, ça peut être qu'une tronçonneuse qui a fait ça. C'est la première preuve d'activité humaine que je voyais depuis 50 jours. Ça m'a fait un soulagement énorme. Énorme. Là, j'ai vu arriver un quad. Là, je lui ai fait signe. Il est arrivé de façon directe sur moi. Et l'homme me dit, t'es le perdu de Guyane. Et là, je fonds en larmes. Et je lui dis, ben oui, je suis le perdu de Guyane.
Loic finally made it to Saoul Airport. The French authorities immediately organized a helicopter search, and Loic climbed on board to help find his friend. In Malaysia, John was just as desperate for rescue.
I could plainly hear a helicopter coming towards me. I was ecstatic. It was the first sign of human life for 5 days. I leapt up onto the boulder, screaming at the top of my voice, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here.
But the helicopter passed straight overhead and disappeared into the distance.
I was devastated. I wept. I really did. I was crushed.
c'est bon, j'arrête. J'arrête de me battre, quoi. La finalité dans tout ça, et Mère Nature va en garder un. Mère Nature, je suis à toi.
French Guiana, Louis raced by helicopter to try and find Guillaume before it's too late. I'm looking for a tarpaulin next to where I left that photo. But in this jungle canopy, it's so hard to see. It's just so dense.
Moi, je regardais la végétation et à un moment, j'ai retrouvé la forêt de bambou. On a continué et là, devant nous, a commencé à apparaître du relief. En regardant, on a vu la bâche.
There it is. 2 o'clock.
Moi, j'attends qu'une chose. On est en stationnaire, donc au-dessus de la bâche. C'est de voir Guilhem. Les secondes ont été longues.
I thought at that stage my chances of rescue were very slim. But in the early afternoon, I shouted, "Help, help, help." And suddenly I heard a voice shout, "Yes, yes, yes." Splashing down the stream came this little guy in army uniform, and he came to me and he said, "Mr. John, Mr. John."
The rest of the Malaysian rescue team arrived moments later.
I can't remember being any more happy to see somebody than I was when I saw them. I put my arms around them and held them like brothers. Tears were rolling down my face. It was truly a wonderful moment.
For the first time in 3 days, John spoke to his wife back in the UK.
I think I said to him, "You bastard, don't ever put me through that again," were my very first words to him. It was just wonderful.
A scientist who got lost in the Malaysian jungle has been rescued after making an emergency call to his wife back home in Britain.
I feel very humble and very apologetic for everything I've put these wonderful 3 women through.
Just incredibly happy to have him home, really am. I think you can see just how I feel right now.
On ne voyait pas Guilhem. Ça a été le moment où je me suis dit que ça se trouve, c'était trop tard pour lui.
Je lève la tête et je vois l'hélico. Super boulot, Loïc, bravo, quoi. Il me sauve la vie, quoi. Ça, c'est énorme. Ça, c'est fabuleux. L'hélico fait descendre un espèce de colosse, un savoyard, un gendarme. Et le gendarme arrive, il me ramasse par terre, il me prend dans ses bras. Il pleurait, quoi. Lui pleurait, moi aussi. C'était énorme.
Well, that's a photo. And it's amazing that Loïc made it back just in time to rescue Guillaume. But what's even more incredible is the thing that these 2 guys survived for 52 days on their own, driven by their willpower, their courage, their resourcefulness. And that's a journey and an attitude I totally respect. Amazing.
This experience changed my perception. I have in many ways become a better person. I appreciate life much, much, much more.
I proved something to myself. I proved that I can survive when I have to survive. And knowing that you have people who love you, who care for you and will never give up on you is one of the very, very important things in life.
Avec Guilhem, on a ce lien qui fait que y a une grande amitié entre nous deux. Et je pense que on s'en serait pas sorti si j'avais pas été avec Guilhem. On est meilleurs amis de la Terre.